All right, so what do we do with those fossils? Well, we use them to create what we call the geologic timeline. Giving you a little, kind of a little overview right here, showing the explosion of life at around 540 million years ago or so, and then some of the different extinctions. A lot of people don't realize that there have been 5 major extinctions in our history, just in the last 500 million years. And a lot of people don't realize that. Everybody knows about, the dinosaur extinction, but most people don't know about the other ones. In fact, the biggest one was actually the Permian around 252 million years ago, which they called the Great Dying. We lost 96% of all the life on the planet. Life almost didn't make it at that point, but it somehow managed to keep going. All right. So, atmosphere, we already talked about the atmosphere caused by outgassing when the planet was cooling. Different atmospheres as it progressed through time allowed changes in the organisms on the planet. All right. These fossils that we look at, by putting them in order, we can construct time scales and define our time periods. All right, there's 4 major time periods: eons, eras, periods, and epochs. I'm going to put up the next few slides a little bit of history of the naming of the time periods. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to throw them up for a couple seconds and then move on. Feel free to read as much or as little of that as you want. Pause the video, do whatever you want to do. Okay, moving onward. This shows kind of the progression of life. Right around there is the Cambrian explosion. You can see back here, 4 billion years ago, 4.6 billion is when the Earth began. These are all our simple organisms, and from here all the way up to here are our more complex organisms. Those boundaries separating those time frames are marked because of those were times when there were major extinctions, there were big tectonic events like oceans opening and mountains being built, and major evolutionary changes. Right? Our time scale begins 4.6 billion years ago, or 4,600 million years ago, and that's pages 8 and 9 in the reference table. I'm going to show you real quick what those are. All right. So here's our time frames: eon, era, period, epoch. There's 2 major eons: Precambrian. This is the first 4 billion years of history we don't know much about. Here's the Phanerozoic. That's the last 12%, the last 540 million years that we have a lot of information about. So in order to fit that information, we took this and they spread it out like this so we can put stuff in here. All right. So the eons, Phanerozoic, broken down into Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic era. Those eras are broken down into these periods and then into epochs. All right. Here's showing the different life forms on the planet. Over here we have the rock record. Anywhere there's not a bar, like Neogene, Paleogene, and Permian, that just means that the rock was weathered away. We don't have any rock that's that age. Okay? Time distribution of fossils. The circles represent specific fossils when they existed. The bar is the group that fossil belongs to and how long that group was alive. If the bar doesn't go all the way to the top, that means the organism went extinct. Right? If it goes all the way to the top, that means it's still alive today. We got some important geologic events, 4 major times when mountains were being built, and then this shows the location and when North America was where through history.